Hello, my name is Mike Pfaff, and this is my YouTube channel, Living in the Illusion. Now, this video, we're going to be discussing the truth and the illusion. The truth and the illusion. Now, in a moment, there'll be a little presentation, about 2 or 3 minute presentation, and that's part 1. And then we'll move into part 2, which will be a discussion around the truth and the illusion. So stick around. It's going to be different than you might imagine.
An apology to truth. Now, apology usually means we've done something wrong and we're making an amends by apologizing. But it has another meaning. Apology has another meaning, and it is when you defend an argument. So we are going to defend an argument about truth. Truth is a concept and therefore subjective. It is not absolute. Truth is not an absolute. It is a concept. Truths are beliefs that are accepted as true. Now, who does the accepting? It is the egoic world that accepts it as true. Therefore, truths are consensus within the illusion, and again, not absolute. When we say something is true, we believe we know it is the truth, but we really don't. It is our beliefs that determine if something is true. Beliefs are created from our past experiences. Therefore, our past determines the truth of our present moment. The truth is not important. It's not absolute. This is our therapeutic statement for this video. End of part 1. Stay right there for part 2.
Welcome back to part 2 of the truth in the illusion. Now, when I first started looking at this, I went in, asked Google. I says, what is the truth? And the first thing that came up says, well, it's a concept. And then they went through a bunch of explanation about it was more psychological, more philosophical. So I thought I would take a stab at it and see what we could come up with around the truth in the illusion. So I began to think, what is truth? Where do you find truth? Well, you find it in the outside world. You experience it outside of yourself. So it's not something that's inside of you, it's something that's outside of you for which you get experiences that lead you to believe, if you have enough experiences, that you can rely on, or there is a truth here that underlies the experience. So in a moment, I'm going to be drawing a model, and part of the model is something we've discussed several times. So it's going to look somewhat familiar in the beginning. And then maybe it won't. So let's see what we can find. First of all, the truth is out there in the outside world, and you experience it, and over the experience of time, you have something that you rely on, and you say, well, that's the truth. So we're going to have to take a look at it and see why, over time, we can experience and say, well, that's the truth. So again, we're going to start with two things. We're going to start with you and what's inside of you, and then what's outside of you. And we've done this before, so maybe it won't be so strange. So I'm going to draw on my board a diagram, first of all, of what's outside of you. So if we start on what's outside of us, we'll let this side over here be what's outside of you. And so I'm going to draw a line. That's my artwork. And we're going to draw another line. Because what's outside of you, outside, and what's inside of you, basically don't touch. It's like the neurons in your brain. There is a gap between each neuron that they can't get close to. It's called a synapses. So this is kind of the same thing. This is our little synapses between the outside and what's inside of you. Inside. So we have these two realms that never really come together, never really meet, but we think they do because we think we can feel the outside environment. But we really can't. So there is a gap between the two of them. Now, outside is where the truth is, the experience is, the experience that you have enough times to give you the evidence that it is true. By the way, and that was kind of funny, one of the explanations definitions of the truth is that the truth is something you accept as true. So they're defining true with true. I thought that was something that you didn't do. But you can do it at certain times if you have enough weight. So inside of you, outside of you. Now, in the past, we have looked at what's outside of us, and we have come up with the conclusion everything's outside of you. Everything's outside of you. The sun, the moon, the stars, your relatives, your lovers, whoever it is, it's all outside of you. So everything's outside of you. So I usually put that on. Everything is outside it. Everything is out here. That means the truth is out here too. The truth. Truth is outside of you. And the outside then is also infinite. So there's a lot of stuff out here. And in this stuff is our truth. So what's inside of you? Well, we talked about that a little bit. So what's inside of you is what you are. And what you are is just a sack full of memories. I bet you never thought about that. You're a sack full of memories. All you are your memories. Where do you get your memories? That's what we're going to be talking about. Because it is your memories, many of them over time, that determines the truth for you. Now there's a clue. You create your truth. You create your truth. So let's see how you do that. Now, between these two realms, okay, information, back and forth. This is information outside of you, and you have information inside of you, which are your memories, experiences, beliefs. All of that is in here as a sack full of memories, which is you. So now you recognize between the two, information passes back and forth related to your senses. Your senses. Now this is a point that a lot of people don't get. The only way you get information from the outside inside is by your senses. Now, why am I making this so profound statement? Because a lot of people believe that the body, the physical body, gets information from the outside. It doesn't. It doesn't. The body is not attached to the outside. Well, you probably thought it did, because you say, well, I feel the wind blow, and I feel when I stub my toe, and I feel all kinds of stuff like that. Now, we're going to look at that a little bit later, but up front, I'm going to say those are interpretations in your mind based upon your sensory, you notice there's 5 of these, your sensory input. So you got visual, auditory, kinesthetic, touch, olfactory, smell, and gustatory, what you taste. So you are observing with these antennae the outside infinite everything, picking up experiences. Now, from the sensory input, you're only getting data. You're only getting data. Now, I hate to keep going back and say we've talked about this, so I'll put some references of some of the videos that we did. So, as the information comes into you, the first thing you do is you look for those things that are relevant to you on the inside, relevant to your past experiences. And what's your past experiences? Memories. So this filtering system that determines what is important for you, and this is where your truth is going to be, what is important for you is your memories of the past. Now, where do you keep your memories of the past? Well, you think, well, I don't know. I think about them and I remember old birthdays. I remember graduating from high school or whatever, or getting a job. So you have these memories that you have accumulated, and nobody seems to know where they're located. So we give that place, we know we can have memories and we can recall them, but where they're stored, we call the subconscious mind. Now, a lot of people say, well, they're in the brain. I haven't found one memory in the brain. I haven't found one memory in the brain that you could put in your hand. Oh, I got to show you my hand. That you could put in your hand. There's a lot of theories, but so that's why I say they're in the subconscious. So there's another realm that's inside of you that is the subconscious. Is this starting to look like something we did before? It should. I gotta think about how to rate this. Subconscious. Okay, so now we have a realm. Matter of fact, it might not even be inside of you. If it was inside you, we'd probably found it by now. So we don't know where it is, but we know we have memories in there that we can draw on. So here we have the outside world. We're taking in information, the outside, everything, including your truth. And we're going to take that information inside and look for your truth. Isn't this interesting so far? So there is a connection here. This is a filter. How can I draw that? Filter. This is a filter, and what you're using to filter, what you're using to look at this information is your past experiences, which are memories. So your filter is your past memories. Now, out of that, you are going to get new information or a bunch of information that you say, ah, that makes sense because I have memories of this kind of stuff. Now, if we have memories of this kind of stuff, we are having experiences over and over that will give us an uniform understanding that we would call the truth. So, for right now, we don't know. So, we have to filter the information. So, out of the everything that's out here, which is infinite, we are taking in information and we're sorting it, looking for data that we're familiar with. That's what we do. That's what we always do. Every input that we have through our senses, every second of the day, we are filtering it through our past, and that determines how our present world is. So you don't see the everything out here. You only see, basically, what you want to see based upon your past. So out of this data here, you take it inside, and based upon your experiences of the past, which is all in the subconscious, you make a determination. It's a perception. You make a perception as to this outside data. So you make a perception or interpretation. I like interpretation. Perception doesn't always give you the same feel as making an interpretation based upon data. Out of that will come perception. So, interpretation. Interpretation. Make believe that's interpretation. So now you have interpretation. So here again, we're looking for our truth. So if you have enough experiences of this outside information and you have an interpretation, that interpretation is compared to what you already know, and when you get experiences over and over and over and over again, you reach a conclusion. And the conclusion is that's a repeatable and reliable process. Whatever it comes up with. And your subconscious mind will accept that and believe it's true. So by going through this process over and over, and you can imagine the subconscious mind looking at the interpretation and saying, well, I've had that before. And I've had it many times, so it might be keeping score of how many times it's had the same interpretation with the same results, And then it says, well, this is a repeatable process. I'm going to make it part of my programming. So now you have a program, and once the subconscious mind makes a program out of the information, you don't consciously have to think about it again until you change it. So before that, there is the other part of your mind, which is the conscious mind. And the conscious mind doesn't have to go through the process consciously of saying, oh, I think that's a truth. Once the subconscious mind accepts it, this conscious mind isn't involved. Actually, the conscious mind isn't involved much anyway. I don't know if you knew that or not. But in this whole process, conscious mind isn't involved. Not much. You recognize these two things are separated. The outside and the inside do not connect in a physical way. They only connect through data, through information from the senses. Now, I thought you know, a lot of times we think, well, no, I feel things, I do things, I can recognize the outside world. No, you don't. It's all done in the mind. It's all done by the data that comes in here that you interpret inside. And then you create an interpretation. And now in another diagram, the interpretation is actually what your memory is of the event. And events are not memories. And memories are not events. But we believe they are. Kind of confusing. So now, we talked before of also, where we got a minute or two, how fast this whole thing takes place. In other videos, we talked about the speed. And again, I get all my information off of Google or the internet. So, it's not my information. So if it's wrong, I have to change my theory. But in the main, your input data moves through this process, moves through this synapses between the two at a rate of around 11 million bits of data per second. Bits of data per second. 11 million. The subconscious mind, as best we can figure right now, operates at around 400 billion bits of data per second. So there's a lot of information, and the subconscious mind operates about 1,000 times faster than the input. So it can handle the input. Now the thing is, the conscious mind has no idea that the interpretation is made from filtered and manipulated data. So the conscious mind looks at the interpretation and says, well, that's reality. That's what's out here. And the conscious mind, your conscious mind, will project this inside interpretation, which is way away from the input information, but is only taking nanoseconds to go through this process. The slow, oh, I didn't tell you how fast this goes. Now this is 11 million bits of data per second, 400 billion bits of data per second, 100 bits of data per second. So your conscious mind is the slowest and way outside of the action that is going on inside of this. But we think because it's the conscious mind that it is doing all of the work. And it's not. It's just picking up after, running along after the interpretation, and it's picking up what it can based upon its slow operating speed. And then it says, oh, it's outside, so it projects it. This is a projection. What you think is outside of you is always a projection of your conscious mind. So what's the truth? Where is the truth at? You create it inside. You create your truth inside based upon your perception of manipulated data, and you believe it's real. Well, this is an illusion. It's not just an illusion part-time, it's an illusion all the time. And so what you think is real very little of the time. Very little. And it's a creation. What you think is the truth out here is a interpretation, a creation inside of your mind, inside of this process, inside of you. Now, all we have to do is figure out where your inside is. Nobody knows that either. We think it's your inside is in your body. Nah, your body's just a vehicle. It's just a instrument. It's just your spacecraft for who you really are. And who you really are, the truth isn't important. This truth isn't important. Because you're creating it. The truth isn't important, but your creation is. Oh, we have a lot to talk about. And we're going to do that next time we get together. So if you have any questions or comments, like you think this is just a lot of malarkey, we'll put down a Y and we'll bring it up and see if it makes, see if we can have to change the model based upon your understanding. So, look forward to seeing you next time. And in the meantime, be good to yourself. Love yourself very much. And we'll talk to you next time.